good friend and brother, Mr. Chika Mordi, who was my classmate in our program at ESA when we prepared for it at the Lagos Business School. Chika, you are welcome. And you are not based here as a full-time person, but you do come in. Please tell us about yourself and what you've been doing.
Well, Austin, you know all about me, so I guess I'm talking more to the audience than to you. So my name is Matthias Chika Mordi. I was a professional banker for the better part of 2.5 decades. And the last thing I did in banking was to co-lead a team that took STB, which some of you might know, to buy over and merge with UBA, which is today's UBA. We moved from a very small bank to what is a group with a presence in 22 odd countries and something like 8 million clients. So I was in school with Austin. I'm an economist by training, and at some point I felt that I could do more in terms of my impact on society, and I said to have a shift in careers. And that saw me go back to school again. It's always a good thing to learn. That should be a point to take away. It's never too old or too late to learn, and there's always room to learn. So I went back to school. I went to Harvard Kennedy School, where I got an MPA in public policy. And after that, I went to Johns Hopkins SAIS, where again I got a master's in international public policy. And after that, again, I wasn't content. I went to American University, where I started a PhD in political communications, but left there with a master's because there were some things to do. And I think basically that's about me. Now, what have I been doing? I did go back about 5 years ago, to set up Nigeria's Competitiveness Council, and Austin sits on that board. I'm the chairman of UBA Capital, so I still have one little toe somewhere in the banking sector, and I run a group called Vantage Insights Analytics. And what we do is political and economic policy consulting.
Chika, it's very refreshing you mentioning the National Competitiveness Council, because that started a movement of healthy competition between the states in terms of human capital development. Can you speak a bit to it, and whether we still require that kind of catalyst?
It's a good question you raise, and I think I get emotional about this because, like you, and I see what you've done in Nigeria and you've done across the continent. Right, we're of the same generation. We both have the same sense of failure of where our country has been, because we all believe firmly that Nigeria has far greater potentials and should have better outcomes than it has today. So the NCC, the whole idea was to create a more enabling environment for businesses. Because Nigeria is not short of entrepreneurs, and its prospective ones. Nigeria is not short of the market size and elements of some resources that can lead to prosperous businesses, create employment, and have successful entrepreneurs. But in the end, every successful economy we want to model after, like the US or elsewhere, is run by small and medium enterprises at the core of it. Right. And if you don't strengthen those places, you're not going to see large employment and a stable economy. Now, in so doing, we did a lot of research to find out what's going on in the country. We put together an index to evaluate every state in the areas that matter and the key pillars for business. And it was clear at the onset there's a lot of work to be done. We wanted competition among the states as a way of driving positive policy. Unfortunately, the intensity and the interest on the side of policymakers has not been sustained because the environment has changed. But the problem still exists. That, we have a very young country, age-wise. The average age is pretty young, is below 19. We have a large number of people, and every year our population is growing by 3.5%. And we're having a large number of kids of school age or who live in school who are not employed. So we are facing a demographic bomb. If we don't start creating jobs and have transformative economic change, this whole demographic growth turns to a bomb. But if we handle it well, it's a window of opportunity. It's all the countries, China and Japan, they grew fastest when they had younger populations. But unfortunately, that opportunity for us has become a demographic bomb. And that's what worries me a lot about the future of Nigeria.
And I know you're doing a lot in leadership and leadership education, leadership, mentoring, empowerment. Can you speak to some of that?
Okay, so I teach a class at Johns Hopkins University on the adjunct faculty. That focuses on business and politics in Africa, but elements of it are about leadership. And I've had, at every opportunity I get, I like to talk to young people about leadership, because I feel that the future, and I feel that the way out for not just Nigeria, but our continent. Right. And for me, leadership is an activity. There are all sorts of views on leadership, but they're not necessarily right or wrong. And there are many ways about what can you learn about leadership, how do you teach leadership. And I feel one perspective that we don't quite take out is the fact that leadership is really an activity. So I can exercise leadership in a certain context at a certain period. And if I'm courageous enough and I'm equipped enough and I understand that context, then I can exercise leadership. Right. And if you move away from organizations, a lot of the work has been that we read about in leadership is more from the business school dimension of it, where we're thinking of corporate organizations and leaders. Now, in the public sector, there are some schools of thought and some ideas behind leadership in the public sector, like leadership in politics and the rest of it. But beyond that, there's an anthropological aspect of leadership and elements of psychology. So what do I mean by this? If you run Google, that has thousands of employees, or you run the UBA I mentioned earlier, that has 15,000 employees, or you run even a country, a civil service that could be in millions, in the end, you actually operate in small groups. So the CEO of Google does not interact with more than 0.1% of his employees with any regularity. So there's a small group around him, the executive group, whatever group it is. The same thing with leaders in the public sector. There's the kitchen cabinet, there's whatever group that works for you. So the dynamics of how people behave in small groups and leadership in that context is far more critical to me than other elements, because there's a technical aspect of many of those things. There's a technical solution to, HR, salaries, motivation, measuring performance, target setting. Some of it is very technical. But what is less technical and more of an art or skill is understanding the dynamics in small groups and then leadership within the small groups. And I think this is an area that I could talk for the next, 20 hours about this. It was an area I've given a lot of thought. And there are elements of psychology, there are elements of anthropology, again, like I said earlier on, there are even elements of geography. Because what influences our behavior, what makes Austin and what makes me here, it's a very complex mosaic of past experiences and value sets that we've put down. If I don't understand the voices you're bringing to a table, even though all I see is Austin, then I'm going to find it harder to lead you. Now, intuitively, we have people who do that. But why is it that there are certain family leaders or people in the families who might not be the leader, but they have this informal authority?
Influence.
Because they have the influence, and they're able to understand why people react to certain ways, in certain ways, even if it's not being said. So I've got a veil now.
Mr. Leadership himself, and this is what you wanted to come and speak to the delegates about. So you're very busy, and yet you accepted to be a mentor, a champion of the Ausso Leadership Academy. What is the motivation?
Well, I think, first of all, obviously, you're part of the motivation because you're a friend. But like I did say earlier on, I feel that this country is blessed with a lot of entrepreneurial talent. Nigerians are very unique in that sense. There are very few places you travel to and you meet people who all want to go into business, want to set up their own business. You see that in Nigeria every day, everywhere I go. There are people who are trying to get things done. Unfortunately, they don't quite have the opportunity or the resources to make that happen. And I feel that for a country with this amount of talent, if you want to have, there's an article that was in the Washington Post last week talking about the most successful ethnic group in America, and it was Nigerian Americans. And when you look at almost every sphere of life, Nigerians in diaspora excel continuously. So I feel in many ways we fail them. And those who have the talent here, who are not able to, who don't have the opportunity of going overseas, where it's easier for them to, convert that talent to something substantial. I think we owe them the duty of helping them, let them learn leadership, let them become entrepreneurs, let them create jobs. I think that's the path to prosperity, and if not prosperity, at least the path to poverty reduction that Nigeria has.